The market has melted down today. The NASDAQ down over 400 points today. Is this a correction or is it the beginning of a crash? And we're going to dig more into that. We're also going to dig into each of the companies that you should really care about and that I'm building a channel around. Please hit that subscribe, that like button, hit the subscribe button, because I am talking about Nvidia, AMD, Micron, SK Hynix, really the bellwethers of all those respective sectors. Obviously, semiconductor and memory. We're going to dig into each of those, and I'm going to give you the answer. Is this the right time to buy those stocks? And we're going to look at it in the context of the entire market. So let's jump into this. All right. So we've got a situation here playing where right now, as of the recording, the market is about to be closing. We're at 387 down for the NASDAQ, Dow down 105. A lot of this is coming on the scenario of the latest earnings coming in from TSMC. They beat on earnings. They beat on future looking guidance. But the issue came in around TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor, around the fact that while the company said in third quarter it sees strong demand, management warned of rising prices. Okay. And that is what spooked the market. Literally, that sentence right there sent the entire AI sector moving down. We are right now seeing Nvidia down. It closed down 5% in after hours just now happening, down about 0.19. We got AMD went down over 5+%. We've got Micron down about 5.5 to 6%, and we got SK Hynix down in today's trading 13+%. SK Hynix getting hit the hardest out of all of those, and so let's have this dialogue. Why the NASDAQ is down. I just gave you. It was literally kind of the AI jitter scenario. A lot of, in my opinion, overreaction to what we're seeing coming out of Taiwan Semiconductor. But also you've got this 1, 2, 3, 4 here where we are seeing profit taking. I saw another report coming out today from some of the major funds out there. Let me move the picture of me so you guys can see that graphic right there. 1, 2, 3, why the NASDAQ's down today. Again, profit taking in AI mega cap stocks. We've seen all these stocks go up dramatically in the last 6 months, a year plus. So we're seeing some profit taking as well. Expectations continue to be really, really high. And inside of that, or parallel to that, in this expectation, there is that kind of constant rampant fear of, is something catastrophic going to happen? Are companies going to come out and make the announcement that they're not going to continue to spend CapEx dollars? These would be the hyperscalers or major enterprise companies like Ford, GM, what have you. So that fear is there. And number 3, we had a rotation into other sectors. So investors are now taking those profits, rotating in under other sectors like the Magnificent Seven stocks, software stocks, things of this nature. And again, we still have geopolitical uncertainty. We still have the backdrop of the US-Iran war and all that kind of playing out. Remember, I'm going to go into each of these companies and give you those buy prices. So this is like an example for Nvidia, and we're going to do each of these. So I've got a graphic built for you for each of these companies. So you need to stay and watch the whole video, because if you care about any of these and you need to look at them in the entirety, that's what we're going to jump into here in just a minute. So I wanted to remind you of that. Okay. So look, correction or crash. Look, I think over on the right-hand side, let me move the picture of me again. Okay, so on the right-hand side, correction or crash, healthy correction, or are we seeing a crash? I don't really think we're seeing any type of a thing. Can't get that graphic to move. There we go. I think that it's a healthy correction. Yes. I think that where we're at from a bottom line standpoint is it's a drop in evaluation reset scenario after a historic run. And you can see pullback after a massive rally, strong earnings and guidance remain intact. AI infrastructure spending continues to accelerate. This is all still in the healthy correction. Economy is stable, recession not imminent. Remember, we're getting some CPI numbers, PPI numbers that are showing that inflation, is coming down and those cost bases are coming down. Volatility normal after record market highs. Now, I don't really think we are not seeing these conditions from a market crash. Earnings collapse across industries. No, we're not seeing that. In fact, we're seeing the opposite from companies like Micron, companies like TSMC, things of this nature. Credit markets freeze. We're not seeing that. We're not seeing panic selling across assets. We're not seeing blood in the proverbial streets, if you will. Okay. And we're not seeing financial stress or recession across the financial sector. So what you need to understand is that all of these factors are at play. And yes, the NASDAQ dropped today, but I think it was an overreaction to Taiwan Semiconductor making that statement that I just showed you earlier, where they said we're going to, quote, have to warn of rising prices. Look, let's call it what it is. Micron, SK Hynix have risen their prices north of 7x or more in the last year or so, give or take. So that's what you need to understand. Again, I think we're seeing, again, a market correction scenario playing out. Okay, so let's jump in and dive into each of these companies respectively. Okay, so let's take a look at Nvidia. Remember, Nvidia closed down about 2.4%, closed down 5 points down right there. So closed down 2.4. That's good. That's actually not a bad day. All right, so to speak. So look, is today's drop an opportunity, or looking at it, is it a scenario where we need to look at what are the perfect buying levels? Okay, so let's dive into this. So year to date, in upper right hand corner, see that up in the right hand corner, year to date return for Nvidia 128+%. Nvidia has been soft in the last month. If we take a look at right here, see right here where my mouse is. In the last month, we're actually Nvidia is down 0.65%. Okay. So it has been a little flat. We've seen capital money rotate out of the Nvidias and the AMDs in the world, and it was going into the Microns, SK Hynix, and other sectors like networking, things of this nature. But again, we're seeing a scenario. So year to date, 128+%. So why is Nvidia down? Back over here on the left. Okay. Today's sell-off is not about Nvidia's business. The fundamentals do remain strong. CapEx dollars continue to accelerate, continue to be spent. Profit taking is going on for Nvidia. Remember, I saw a report earlier today that major financial institutions were advising their clients just recently to basically lock in and take some profits and then move some money into other sectors. Nothing fundamentally wrong with AI. It's just that we've had a major significant run up in AI stocks over a period of time. Again, Nvidia giving a year to date 128%. Profit taking was inevitable. We do have extremely high expectations for the entire AI sector. That is, in fact, true. We know that. And we're literally kind of walking a tightrope. Consider what we saw today from Taiwan Semiconductor. One comment about the fact that they're going to have to raise their prices literally was the cascading effect for what we saw today. So we are seeing some capital rotate out of AI stocks like Nvidia. I'm not concerned about it. And again, we're going to talk about what those buying levels should be looking at Nvidia. And that's over here on the right-hand side of this graphic, if you kind of take a look at that. So let me zoom in on that and then show you that. So over on the right, buy-in levels for Nvidia based on current price of 206, which we are currently at, 206, 207. Okay. So if you're looking for a good buy, the price would be basically 195, 205, a small pullback entry zone. If you're looking for a really strong buy opportunity, if we could continue to see weakness or continue move down in Nvidia, strong buy territory is 180 to 195. That is a meaningful correction zone, which, given the kind of the current state of where we're at with the market, is entirely possible that we do get to this 180, 195 range, which would be a very strong buy range for your Nvidia. Excellent buy. Again, now below 180. It's an aggressive accumulation zone. So if you forget or don't remember anything, look at that 180 price is really a really good, meaningful correction zone entry point. And anything a little bit below that, 175, 170, we're seeing an aggressive accumulation zone. Buy. Also, kind of moving on and looking at this, if you look at right here at the very bottom, if you make sure you guys can see that, yeah, I want to focus you on this. This is something that I had put together specifically for you. If you're looking at like how maybe to DCA scale in strategy, and you don't want to try to time the bottom, you could look at, okay, maybe I'm going to look at if we see it dropped into maybe the 190 range, 195, 107, maybe by 25%, give or take. And again, as we see buy another 25%, Nvidia falls 5 to 7% more, buy another 25% if Nvidia falls another 10 to 15, and keep final 25% in reserve for a deeper market pullback if we do see below that 180 price point. Okay, so there you go. So there's the kind of the scenario for Nvidia. Let's now switch and talk about AMD. All right, AMD ended the day right here down 5.3%, down $28 right there, 5.3%. So again, looking at why I don't have to really go into the left-hand side here on the screen. Let me move that picture of me. Basically, the AMD, why it's down, are exactly the same reasons that Nvidia is down, right? So we don't really have to look at those. Profit taking, high expectations, rotation, so forth. All that is there. And if you look in the middle here, AMD fundamentals remain strong. I didn't really get into that for Nvidia, but again, Nvidia fundamentals remain exceptional. Okay, so there's your profit kind of numbers, data center revenue growth, revenue guidance, all gross margin, everything, Blackwell and Rubin platform on track, all that is there. Okay, so if you kind of want to zoom in real quickly and kind of take a look at the similar thing for AMD fundamentals do remain strong right here in the very middle. Okay, year-to-date return for AMD 58%, 58%. Okay, so that right there in the upper right-hand corner. So that's kind of where we're at, plus 58%. Remember, Nvidia, we had, got to find that graphic, we had plus 128%. I think AMD is getting set up for a significant opportunity moving forward as we continue to move into even more and more inference AI and agentic AI, the next waves, if you will, coming, versus moving out of the training model phase, which is where we've been in, and we start to see massive adoption of AI in those inference and agentic AIs that are really suited to AMD. We'll see AMD start to sell even more CPUs, things of this nature. I did a video on that yesterday. It'll be linked at the end of this video if you want to check that out. But again, AMD up 58+%. Okay, so we're talking about here buy-in levels now. So let's look at the buy-in levels over on the far right-hand side. Let me zoom in on that for you a little bit more so you can see that. So the buy-in levels currently looking at a good buy between 510 and 535. And remember, our current price is 500. Let me see. Is that right? AMD? Yeah, AMD. Good buy. That's based on current price 536. So let me back up. Okay, so obviously my graphic is wrong. My apologies. I built this with AI. So my graphic here is wrong from a good buy because we're actually below that price point. So you have to kind of look at this. 470 to 500 would be, kind of your good range, but given on current price now, because again, it looks like the graphic grabbed the wrong current price and we had AMD again closing at 500. So my apologies there. So basically good buy would be 470 to 500. Strong buy would be below 470 because you see what I'm doing. I'm just kind of moving down, and anything kind of below that 450 would be kind of an aggressive accumulation zone. So just kind of look at this and just kind of move down that price point a little bit. So that 450 would be a really, really good scenario to buy in. And remember, down here on the right-hand side, we got that scaling strategy. Here's the thing. You don't try to time the bottom in any of these assets, Nvidia, AMD, Micron, whatever it may be. Use that kind of 25% at those different levels. If you're looking at, hey, I really believe in AMD's business, I want to get into it and I want to maybe, put some money into it over a period of time. And that's a good way to do it, which is the part of the graphic in the lower right-hand corner that you see there. Okay. So let's talk about the next one on the list, which is Micron. What are the good buying levels in for Micron? Let's take a look at that. Micron closed down 5.65% today, went down $51, currently sitting at $8.53. I definitely think we're looking at some good opportunity here on Micron. So kind of taking a look at where we're at on Micron. So again, my graphic grabbed a wrong number. It's interesting. I just ran these right before I did this. So my apologies, guys. I was creating these graphics in accordance. So again, those buy-in levels for Micron, if we're currently trading with Micron at about 850, you can see that, we need to kind of look at the good buy range would be 850 to maybe 825. Strong buy would be kind of 825 to 800. An excellent buy really would be, again, that below 800. Okay, so my ranges are just a little bit off because it's showing basically the current price is 905, which is in fact, obviously, what it did is it grabbed the price before the market closed, and that's where we're at. So just it grabbed the price when it was $50 a little bit higher, but the levels are still there. Okay, basically you can just kind of move down about $25 to $50 on each of those buying targets, and you can get your good buy-in levels there. Again, so because that's my objective, I want you to understand kind of what some of those buy-in levels are, and remember that long-term strategy, scale in. Don't try to time the market perfectly for Micron, because here's the thing. Micron is down today, guys, for the exact same reasons over here on the left that we saw for Nvidia, AMD. Profit taking after a 600% plus run in the last year plus. Year to date is 81% up in the upper right-hand corner. You can see 81% for year-to-date return. Micron is a long-term winner. We've talked about it. It's the HBM, one of the HBM leaders. SK Hynix is definitely the bigger as far as market share for HBM, but we know that Micron's moving dramatically into the automotive AI expansion. They've got deals in place with General Motors and Ford. In fact, I saw that they signed a deal today, announced a deal Micron did with Qualcomm and another supplier for specific components, again, to strengthen that supply chain feeding into the automotive sector, again, based off of their long-term strategic deals that they have in place with General Motors and Ford, all that kind of stuff. Great P&E, great P&E ratio, PE ratio for, I've always said P&E. I've always said that. Some of these guys laugh at me, but I've always said P&E since I was little bitty. Okay. Great PE, forward-looking PE ratio. Micron has, just like SK Hynix, some of the lowest PE ratios out there. And I think that, again, today's bottom line, it's a valuation and sentiment, not weakening demand. That's really here kind of in the middle. I really want to stress that and reiterate that, is that we're not seeing, nothing's fundamentally changed in Micron's business. Nothing's fundamentally changed in where we're at. It is a sentiment driven and evaluation driven scenario predicated off of that announcement from Taiwan Semiconductor that they're going to be raising prices. So the fear is that if they raise prices, specifically, obviously in the chip sector, that's going to impact maybe Nvidia's and AMD's cost basis. Because again, Taiwan basically is the manufacturer for a lot of the Nvidia's, Intel's, AMD's of the world, so forth and so on. Yeah, well, not so much Intel, but you get my point. Okay. For a lot of the chips out there. Okay. So that's where we're at on Micron, giving you kind of those buying levels of where we're at on the right-hand side. So let's take a look real quickly now at SK Hynix. So SK Hynix ended the day trading down 13%, the hardest hit of all of them. Is this a really good buy-in level for SK Hynix? Down $24, currently sitting at 152. Let's see if my graphic is right. Yeah, we're in the range here. Okay, a little bit high. So the graphic's a little bit off, saying we're sitting at 166. So we need to basically take off about $15 off these prices. So a good buy would be about $15 that you see lower here. So kind of that low end would be 145 to kind of 150 is that good buy zone. Let me zoom in on this just a little bit for you so you guys can see that. Okay, let me move the picture of me over to the left. Okay, and so it's a strong buy. Again, take $15 off. So strong buy would be kind of that 140, 130. Don't do math in public. 130 to 145. And anything below 140 would be an excellent buy. So there are your buying levels. If you're looking at, hey, what are some of the numbers I should be looking at, kind of resistance, and how maybe I could do a long-term buy-in strategy where, again, in that lower right-hand corner, you're buying in maybe 25%. If you see some current drop in valuation, another 25%, and with further weakness, another 25%. And here's what I want to reiterate. These are really DCA strategies, right? These buy-in levels are DCA strategies in the context that you are going to hold this asset, SK Hynix, Micron, AMD, Nvidia, over a period of time. You're going to hold it for a year, 2, 3. I will remind you that the AI CapEx build out goes well past 2030 with north of $5.5 trillion being spent in these respective sectors. Remember, I've showed you guys this graphic. We've got money being spent on CPUs, CPUs, memory, networking. It is these three bottleneck sectors that are going to receive the bulk of that $5.5 trillion that will be spent on inference AI, agentic AI as we move into 27, 28, 2029, 2030. So again, I want to remind you of that. And so all of the companies we talked about today stand to greatly benefit from that. And ultimately, where does that leave us? It leaves us in a situation where we come back here where we started, okay? It leaves us in a situation where you look at this and you go, the NASDAQ down today, a little bit bloody, down 385 plus 400. We had profit taking, but I don't think we're seeing a crash scenario. I think it's a correction. I think it's a sentiment valuation driven scenario where Taiwan set off a chain reaction, Taiwan Semiconductor, and we saw that happen. We've seen this time and time again. specifically the AI sector. We've seen this where one company like SK Hynix did it, Samsung did it in and around their earnings calls. And it just sets off this chain reaction where all of the significant AI related stocks get hit. Nvidia, right? Nvidia, AMD, they all get it's a pervasive hit that happens across the entire sector, especially to the blue chips of that sector. So I think ultimately where do we land? We land in a place where I think that if you look at well, let's end here. If you look at this scenario, you always come back to CapEx dollars being spent. And you always come back to these three sectors you see here: CPUs, memory, networking. You wrap around that discussion, inference AI and agentic AI, and how those two next waves of how AI is used and deployed, and therein lies significant more GPUs and CPUs from companies like Nvidia, AMD, so forth. Memory, biggest bottleneck out there, going to continue to be so. We've talked about that at length, how demand is vastly outstripping supply for all memory, HBM, DRAM, NAND, all that. Networking is a huge opportunity. I've covered that on my channel. Some really top companies that you want to take a look at. There are Credo and Astera Labs on the networking side. And then on the very bottom of this graphic, and I've covered this in a previous video, by the way, companies to watch: Applied Materials, Lam Research, KLA, because they're supplying essentially like the picks and shovels to the AI boom. All right. So you might want to take a look at some of those as well. So I hope you got some value out of this. Thanks for giving me a few minutes. Let me know what you think. Drop in the comments below. Please hit that subscribe, because I'm working here for you, trying to build this channel. I'd love to have you be a subscriber, which is free to do that. See you down the road. Bye.